Well, let's bring in Ben Aris. He's the editor-in-chief at BNE IntelliNews and joins us now live from Berlin. Ben, good to have you on the programme as always. The signs do appear to be pointing in one direction, that this is more likely to happen than not. I mean, do you think this is primarily the involvement of Iran and that recent shipment of weapons?
The Iran weapons come into the mix. At the same time, the States has been accusing the Chinese of being more active and helping the military supplies for Russia. But I think the key here is that the war in Ukraine, Donbass region in particular, is going very badly. And now the Ukraine troops are inside Russia in the Kursk incursion, and they're exposed as well. The basic problem here is that Russia has been bringing its arms right up to the border with Ukraine and flying missiles, bombs, drones, and hitting any target it likes across the whole country. However, Ukraine has not been able to strike back. I mean, the bizarre thing is there is an effective no-fly zone ban imposed by the states on Ukraine that it's not allowed to use its best and most powerful NATO-supplied missiles to hit military targets inside Russian territory. So, Russia has these very powerful glide bombs it introduced in the summer. And they only have a range of 50 kilometers, maybe 100 at the most. And so Russia's been flying its jets up to the border and then launching these things against Kharkiv and their frontline positions and Ukrainian defenses. And Ukraine is powerless to fight back. And now it's even more exposed with its best troops, which is sent into Kursk. And now they've stopped moving. They're also exposed. So Zelensky, your correspondent used the word pleading. I think that's a very appropriate word. He's saying every day, give us permission to use these. And he wants to hit military installations and airfields in particular in order to push the Russians back, in order to take the pressure off the front line in Donbass, and at the same time to protect and take the pressure off his troops who are now sat in Kursk.
Yeah, and these missiles, the Western-supplied missiles, have a range of up to about 200 miles, so upwards of 300 kilometres. The idea being that could push US military, particularly aircraft bases, further back. Could that in itself shape the course of the war?
It will certainly help. It will relieve the pressure. The Russians reportedly have already moved 80% of their aircraft out of range, particularly these ACMS US missiles, as you say, can reach 200-300 clicks inside to Ukraine, and so they are pushing them back. And as I say, the range of some of the drones and glide bombs that Russia has is limited, so that this will take some of the pressure off the guys in Kursk, but particularly on the front line in Donbass, where, according to the reports, the Ukrainian defense is crumbling slowly. And this will buy Ukraine some breathing space. And as I said, Zelensky is asking for this every day. He's actually sounding kind of desperate because it's going very slowly. The Blinken just arrived. The State Department has already said that they will give permission, but everyone's expecting it to come with a whole long list of kavits. You may not hit oil refineries. You may not hit Moscow. You may not hit civilian targets. You must specifically target military installations and airfields. Well, yeah. And I think that's the discussion today.
Yeah, well, these are the operational details that we're expecting to be ironed out, that Antony Blinken and David Lammy will report back to Sir Keir Starmer and Joe Biden. On the subject of retaliation from Vladimir Putin, he's made many threats about red lines over the course of this war, none of which he has then gone on to carry out. Do you think that will further embolden the Western partners, that this is a risk worth taking?
Well, the Kursk invasion itself was a shocker. I mean, Ukraine invaded Russia. That hasn't happened since the Second World War. And what did the Kremlin do? Basically nothing. I mean, it brought up some troops. It didn't bring any troops from Donbass, and they basically boxed them in. And it seems to me that they're in no rush. They're concentrating on the Donbass, the offensive there. They're in no rush to attack the Ukrainian troops. They're just going to box them in. Brought up, according to Zelensky, 30,000 troops, which is probably at least 30% or double what the Ukrainians have. And they're starting to bomb them. But again, the red lines, purported red lines, we keep crossing them and nothing happens. And here we're going to have US-made missiles striking military targets inside Russia. And the Russians would be within their rights to say, actually, you're not helping Ukraine defend itself. This is a NATO attack on Mother Russia, and that's an act of war. So let's go through a Third World War, which is what everyone's afraid of. And I think this is where the states, they weren't asked for permission about this cursed invasion, and they wouldn't have given it because they're afraid of it, which is also why they're dithering over giving permission to use these NATO missiles to strike military targets inside Russia, because it's a provocation. But at every step, Putin's backed off, because I think, bottom line, the Kremlin doesn't want to go to war with NATO as much as NATO doesn't want to go to war with Kremlin, because that's a war that no one wins. You know, it could end up in a nuclear exchange. So I think these red lines that Putin reportedly has are not actually that deep. He can't do anything without going to war with NATO, and Russia's fully aware that's a war it can't win.
Ben, thanks as always. Good to speak to you today. Ben Aris there joining us from Berlin.